Tuesday, December 7th, 2021 meeting of the Carlington School District Board of Directors is called to order. We've already done the pledge at our first meeting, so we'll go on to public comments. If there are any members of the public that would like to ask a question or speak regarding an agenda topic on this meeting, raise your hand or rise. If not, we do have a moment at the end where you can ask questions about any district business, so I'll look forward to speaking with some of you then. Moving on then, we do have an opening on the board. We had a director resign at our last meeting, so any director want to suggest a past replacement or a person that they would like to see replace Director Tassara that resigned?
I would like to see Joe Apple. I'm not sure if you folks realize, but Joe Apple was the anchor of our negotiating team for the teachers' contract. He's given us a fair contract for the teachers and especially fair for us taxpayers. And I don't think people realize that it was a wonderful team, but he was the anchor. So I'd like to nominate Joe.
Thank you.
Now, that is a motion and would require a second.
Okay. Would anyone like to second?
I second.
George, thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with George's comment. He's been a tremendous support to not only the negotiation, but I know even as a new board member 6 years ago, he was very open and willing to help and do whatever for the whole of the group. I think it would be great to have him back.
So well versed and he has so much history that we need.
Okay.
So he's, yeah.
If the feeling is that strong, I would support Joe absolutely. He's been a great asset, so he's newly available. This is perfect. There is a motion. There is a second. Any other questions or comments, or should we vote on having Joe be our replacement board member? Okay. I don't think so.
Jim, can you speak up?
She was asking a logistics question, and I clarified. So I think you made a motion. I think somebody seconded. Kelly seconded. We had a discussion. Is there any other questions? If not, we can vote on having Joe as our filling our open position. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries, and congrats to Director Apple, who's back on the board.
Jim, should
Mr.
you
Apple
ask
will
for
need
him?
to take his oath of office, and then once he does that, he'll be eligible to sit again as a voting board member.
In our January meeting.
Well, he can do it any time between now and the January meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Jim and Bill, should nominations be kept open for additional?
Well, no, that passed, so that was a
Well, that's
7-0 vote, so there is no need to have any further nominations and vote. He was unanimously appointed, so Mr. Apple, upon being sworn in, will be a voting, functioning board member.
Thank you. And George, thank you for the nomination.
We have all now learned that if you don't come to the meeting, you get voted into office.
Exactly. All right, so moving on to the second section of our meeting, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes for the minutes from the November 17th voting meeting and for the, I apologize, this is November 16th and November 17th.
It's the 16th.
16th?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. There's just a typo in our report, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 16th, 2021 meeting as presented. Do I have a motion for those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by the second. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion or questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 3, I'll report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we discussed personnel matters. I'll now turn to Dr. Crater for a superintendent's report.
Thank you, Director Schreiber. I do have a brief report. In September, we updated the board and the community in regard to our ESSER grants. So just to provide a brief update in regard to the status of where we are. As a reminder, ESSER 1 grant was for a total of $458,167. That grant was very early in the process of the pandemic. The items that were listed back in September have been completed. That grant has been closed out. We recently went through and submitted our ESSER 2 grant. The ESSER 2 grant is in the amount of $1,873,547. For that, we put in a lot of services that are provided directly to our students, taking those priorities first, taking a look at teaching and learning types of issues. We also took into consideration other types of ADA compliance types of equipment that was put in there. Our Carlinton Cyber Academy was funded for individuals who are not attending school due to COVID and attending to outside resources there. We looked at instructional furniture. So those are desks, chairs, different types of furniture to be used in the classroom that will help with social distancing. On the list, we have additional technology purposes. Some of that technology will be used to support the Cyber Academy. Also will be used to refresh our Chromebooks with some of our students. We're looking to purchase with that additional software, health services. We have a reading interventionist position that we recently approved to provide additional resources at both Crafton and Carnegie Elementary Schools. We have some facility upgrades that are a part of the ESSER 2s, and in many of those facility types of projects have worked towards ventilation, increasing the flow of air inside of our classrooms and inside of our buildings. So that grant was just recently submitted this week. It had a due date of December 10 on it. There was also some other forms that needed to be uploaded to support some of the capital improvement projects that were part of that. The next phase of the ESSERs we're coming into is the ESSER 3. That's broken up into several different categories for a little bit over $3 million in regard to the ESSER 3. We have some tentative plans to allocate towards those resources, just like the ESSER 1 and the ESSER 2 grants. They have very specific types of funding guidelines that we need to adhere by. In this particular case, what we will do is assemble a committee, large group of stakeholders to help provide input into how those resources are allocated. But some preliminary plans that we have for the ESSER 3 money is taking a look at our curriculum K through 12, providing a refresh that has not been done in many years. And much of the emphasis on the ESSER grants through the American Rescue Plan are to put districts into a better position than what they were prior to the pandemic. So the curriculum refresh, textbook, workbooks, supplies that students use on a daily basis should have a significant impact on our district. Looking at tutoring services, and some of which we have started in our programming, mental health services, assessment materials. We also will put in our two chill projects, two chill programs that we've instituted at both Carnegie and also at the junior senior high school. Professional development for our staff, summer programming, some security upgrades, and then also some additional facility projects as well. As a part of that grant, we're also required to take 20% of that money, set it aside specifically to measure and address the academic loss of instruction time through the implementation of evidence-based practice. So taking a look at instructional time that was lost over the past year and a half, use money to specifically measure and monitor anything related to the acquisition of skills from our students and allocate resources to supplement that. So as mentioned, we'll get a committee together to review that. Also, part of the ARP ESSER, they had set-asides, which is in addition to the funding that's outlined above. Those were also very specific towards what they needed to be allocated for, so they were a little bit easier grants to go through and write. Again, they were submitted as well. Those are for 3 areas. It's for after-school programming, for summer school, and then also for learning loss. So those dollar amounts are associated with each of those categories. Last year we offered our summer school program to our students who did not complete their requirements. We also offered after-school tutoring specifically to our seniors who were in jeopardy of not graduating on time. Both of those programs were very successful. So in the learning loss section, we look to continue both the after-school programming, the tutoring, and summer school enrichment types of programs throughout the next 2 years that is able for us to allocate these resources during that window. So we look to complete the ESSER 3 part of the grant within the next month or so. and have that application gone through and submitted, and look for some solid feedback from some individuals who can help provide that additional information to us. Some quick upcoming events, just a reminder as far as our winter break coming up between December 24 through December 31. School session is back in session then on Monday, January the 3rd. We also, coming up on December 21st, it's a celebration of the arts. As I mentioned last time, it's a great opportunity for our community to come out and see our students perform on the stage for choral and also for our music program, and they also combine with our arts program to put on a nice show and entertainment for parents, for students, and for other members of our community as well. And just a reminder, check our website for additional updates for upcoming events, which are listed on there. And as always, a reminder, just to text Power School if you're a parent, you have a child in the district, just to get those constant updates on how your child is performing in the classrooms. So the ESSER update was the biggest component here, just to bring everybody up to speed on where we are with ESSER 1, 2, and 3, and then also the set-asides. Any questions in regard from the board in regard to the ESSER plans?
Thank you, Dr. Green. Turning to the committee reports, I know we have some new people serving committees. Either Leanne or George or Kelly, any comments about Parkway, or is it a little too early to?
You ran out while we were having a break and I went to a meeting.
Oh,
It was
very
great.
good, very good, very good. So we'll look for an update in January then.
She's still hungry.
That's okay, exactly. For Pathfinder, Director Hunchar, anything you want to share?
Yes, thank you, Jim. The November Pathfinder meeting, we're at almost all-time high, except for the 60s, with 98 kids. But 18 of those are June graduates who have returned because of the COVID issue. So they've returned for another year. So without any more kids, we will drop to 80 at the end of the school year. But we are at capacity and can only take no more than 2 more kids. All of the teachers are back, but the problem we have is in recruiting aides for Pathfinder. So if anybody out listening to this video could be an aide at Pathfinder, it's a wonderful, heartwarming experience to help those kids. It's a wonderful school. That's it, Jim.
Thank you. Shazda, Director Zalewski, any updates?
So we will actually have a meeting on the 16th. It'll be the first meeting since March 3rd of 2020. So
We'll have to catch up on.
Yeah.
You better drink a pot of coffee.
yeah. And what's on the agenda or the program is the legal updates. I would actually ask if you have a little bit as well, and invite Jessica as the alternate.
Yeah, if you want to send me the details, so I know what time.
Since it's been quite a while, they're going to
Yeah.
be sharing quite a bit of information.
Okay.
And then they do have a tentative plan for the student forum to be held April 23rd of 2020 at the Superintendent, but there's more to be shared on that.
Great. It'd be nice to be back together.
Mhm.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
Director Simsick, anything you want to share on PSBA or legislative?
Oh, yes, actually. Well, I can report that right now the General Assembly is in recess. So they are scheduled to reconvene on Monday the 13th, and then they'll break again until early January. So not much going on with that problem, the holidays and everything. But another interesting thing that I came across in looking at the latest legislative information put out by PSBA, they were sharing that Pennsylvania Department of Education has a new resource for students called the Pennsylvania Career Zone. And you can just Google PA Career Zone, and it has a lot of resources to assist students from K through 12 in learning about careers. So it's tailored to the learner, so they could have someone who doesn't have great reading skills. It's they get to hear what the careers are about. But they also have things like resume building, budgeting. So a lot of really, it seems like really good resources for students. But there's a student portal and there's also an educator portal for that. So, they recommend that educators sign up as well. And again, it's PA Career Zone, and it's, I think, something that would be worthwhile for us to look into. I think they also have a parent component if any of the parents are interested in that as well. So that's all I have for legislative and PSBA at this time. As far as the foundation, moving on, they're meeting tonight, so I'm missing their meeting tonight, but I do know that they plan to wrap up Purse Bingo, which they, from what I understand, it was wildly successful. They were very, very happy with the results of that, so they were going to, recap that, and then also begin discussing the Maggie Scholarship for next time. So I'll have more information on that, I'm sure, next time.
Great, thank you. Any questions for any of the committee reports? If none, we'll move on. Under section 4 of the agenda, we have some miscellaneous items, 2 in particular. I'll entertain a motion to approve the additions to the list of conferences and field trips for the 2021-2022 school year as submitted. And then number 2, the school-based services agreement with the Caring Foundation. Have a motion for those 2 items.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 5, finance, we have several items. 4, I'll entertain a motion for number 1, to approve the following reports as reflected in the December 2021 financial reports, the November 21 treasurer's report, the investment report, the board summary report, the November 21 junior senior high school activities fund report, the November 21 athletic fund report, and the November 21 treasurer's report summary. Item number 2, the bills for the period of October 13th, 2021 through December 2nd, 2021, in the amount of $1,256,947.28. Number 3, the letter of agreement for a school health initiative between UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and the district. Number 4, the agreement between the CCIU and Carlington School District as submitted. Do I have a motion for those 4 items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 6 personnel, we also have several items. 8 different items. So I'll entertain a motion to approve number 1, the resignations and additions to the 2020-2021 activity supplemental list with resignations and new sponsors as submitted. The stipend for supplemental position holders is contingent upon completion of the full school year and will be prorated in the event of a short or canceled season due to unforeseen circumstances. Number 2, the letter of intent to retire submitted by Class 1 Technology Aide Angela Kniff, effective February 7th, 2022, and consistent with the terms of the SCA Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 3, to approve Denise Cook and Elizabeth Luffy for the positions of the morning special education aides at the junior senior high school for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year, and consistent with the terms of the SCA Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 4, to approve the elimination of 2 library technical clerical aide positions at the elementary schools effective December 16th, 2021. Number 5, to approve the creation of a Class 3 library aide position at the elementary level, consistent with the terms of the SCA Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement. Number 6, the amendment to the Act 93 agreement to include the salary range for the position of Business Office Coordinator to be as follows. Minimum $48,000, target $60,000, maximum $68,000. Number 7, to approve the amendment to the STS agreement related to short-term substitute teachers. And lastly, number 8, to approve the leaves of absence for employees ACT 93-2122-02, CFT 212208, and CFT 2122-09. Do I have a motion for those 8 items?
So moved.
Moved. Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 7, Student Activities, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed Carlington Marching Band spring trip to Disney World in Orlando, Florida, March 15th to 20th, as submitted. Do I have a motion for that item?
I support.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Section 8, Old Business, does any director have any old business they'd like to bring up? New business, any director have any new business they'd like to share? Okay, open forum. So any member of the public that would like to ask a question or address a topic that wasn't on the agenda, or I see we have one person has signed up. And I can start with you. Don Mazday?
Yeah.
Would you like to come up and share your comment or your question?
Where do I stand?
Wherever you feel comfortable, somewhere up here, wherever's good for you.
I come up here with a concern. I'm worried about not only my son right now because he's done playing football. Things already happened to him. It's not going to happen. But I'm concerned about the culture of the football team. I tried to approach Mr. Milsom, came up to the school. He was busy. He didn't return my call. I called him again. He didn't return my call. I left a message, and then I called him again. They didn't. That was Wednesday, so it was a holiday, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I did talk to Dr. Crider, Mr. Crider. He gave me the time of day. He talked to me. He was professional, listened to me. But right after I talked to Dr. Crider that day, I got the call from Mr. Milsom, which was kind of ironic. But anyway, the reason I'm here is I'm a little worried about the culture here. The head coach seems to use bullying tactics, intimidation, and threats.
Excuse me, sir. We're not going to be able to talk about personnel and specific personnel items. In order to do that, we'd have to make arrangements to go to executive session.
Could we do that?
Permit you to do that. You can talk about the program.
Could we do
but you
that?
can't- Excuse me, sir. You can't talk about an individual and what his actions may or may not have been. Okay?
So how do I go about this?
Well, if you want to talk about that, you're going to have to make arrangements to go into executive session, and we can hear what you have to say in executive session. You cannot do it in public.
So I can't talk about what the coach did to my son?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we're trying to protect the privacy of individuals, but your point.
I understand. That's why I didn't use a name. I used
I think when you say the head coach, it's pretty easy to identify who that is.
yeah.
Because you could talk about the program in general.
Well, there's only one problem. So I don't know how to address this.
I don't know how to tell you because I don't know what you want to say, but if you're going to talk about an individual, we're going to have to
Well,
schedule.
can I just say this?
Hold on for a second. We'd have to schedule a specific meeting with you in executive session. Cannot do it in public. I'm sorry, now what was your question?
I would like to do that.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about my son's brain injuries he suffered here. I would like to talk about him purposely being not nominated. Him and another kid are obviously the two best players on the
We'll schedule
team.
the executive session with you. Let's not get into the details of
But
that.
that's what I'm trying to get. It's too late for my son. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the other kids because I don't think people should be coaching these kids
I'm
and
not sure I
doing
can make it
this.
any clearer. You can talk about the program in
Okay, I'm
general.
sorry, sir. I'm done talking.
Okay, you just can't say.
I apologize.
No
I
problem.
apologize.
We'll,
Sorry.
Don, we'll get something scheduled if you want to reach out to Dr. Kreider.
I apologize, everyone here. I didn't know. I've never been these. I think it's ridiculous that a parent has to come up here when you put your kid in somebody's charge and they're treated like that. Not only my kid, but several of the kids on the team have been threatened. That's all. I would like to talk after this. Thank you. I apologize.
Thank you, Don. Anyone else in the public that has questions or comments, or, ma'am?
We do is related to the same matter. That's why we're here.
So I guess the same structure that the solicitor recommended is we would want to get into personal
Yeah,
specific.
but this won't be personal. My son, Sean Curry,
Okay.
he's played for this football team since 7th grade. He's number 5 in the Whoop-Eels for rushing yards. And he never got nominated for any championship games. None of that. He got taken off of the huddle because of retaliation of me personally letting the coaching staff knows that he was not going to play the last game. And my husband and I had to call Mr. Milson, the athletic director, multiple times. And we threatened legal actions before he was put back on the huddle. And I got text messages telling me that my son, him not playing that last game, was considered him quitting the team, and he was not going to get nominated for anything. His name was not going to be mentioned. He was not getting his letter. I take that personal because my son worked hard. Football is everything for him. So for him to be treated that way, it's upsetting as a parent. Not just my son. Everyone on that football team, those kids work hard every day. So
Sounds like
coaches come to the school from Duquesne just last week. A coach came to this school. A linebacker was never mentioned to that coach. Somebody else that don't play that position was told to go and talk to that coach. It's retaliation, it's personal. You can't say it's not. And something needs to be done.
It sounds like we should schedule a meeting with your family as well to have that conversation. Can you stay afterward and so we can get your name and get something set up?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else have any questions or comments from the public? Yes.
Yeah, I just, my question is,
Is it Steph? Can I confirm? Is it
Stephanie Mangan,
Stephanie?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to know what the criteria is for this district to edit the health and safety plan. You had mentioned learning loss. My kids are experiencing, one of my kids is experiencing learning loss. And it's 2 years of just this dystopic weirdness. And it's, the goalposts are constantly kicked down the road. When we get to this point, when we get to this point, your kids will get back to normal. When are my kids going to be able to get to school and have a normal school year? Them wearing cloth masks over their face for 6+ hours is not normal. And I would feel so much more comfortable if I knew this is the goal we're going to reach, and when we reach that goal, we're going to let kids see one another's faces again. We're going to let kids hear one another, because I don't know how they feel. I can barely hear half of what people are saying when they've got these masks on, so goodness only knows how our kids feel about that. What's the criteria? That's what I want to know.
Stephanie, I'll share with you that I'll share in your frustration. I think we all, as a board, thought we would be getting to now and we would have different news to share or positive, exciting news to share with the lawsuits that have been filed and then the appeals and the stays and the things have changed and the criteria that we've been given to make decisions has changed. So I think at this point, I'll ask for our solicitor to comment, but I think we are still under the regulation of the state. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the Supreme Court has scheduled arguments on the issue for tomorrow. They'll be in Harrisburg. That does not mean that the Supreme Court will enter a decision tomorrow. It simply means that they will hear arguments. The hope, I think, of everybody is that at that point the Supreme Court will give us definitive guidelines that not only Carleton but every district in the state of Pennsylvania will be able to follow. But as the situation stands right now, the order of mandatory masking that was put into effect by the Department of Health back in August, September, remains in effect. And unless and until the governor withdraws it or the Supreme Court rules, that is what the Carleton School District is required to do and is required to follow.
But the very latest is January 17th, correct?
That is not correct. The governor has said that he intends to do that. As this board sits here, or anybody sits here, we would have no way to know if the governor would either extend the mandate or the Supreme Court would extend it or could be struck down. So unless and until something happens of a definitive nature, everything that you asked we can only answer with a speculative answer, and your speculation would be as accurate as anybody else's. So until we have definitive direction from, and at least it is at the highest court in the state of Pennsylvania, we hope to have that type of definitive direction at that point.
So the Supreme Court, from what I understand, typically sides with the Commonwealth Court.
Well, actually, that's not true either, but, you know, there is no usual with the Supreme Court. They make their determination. They can uphold the Commonwealth Court. They can overturn the Commonwealth Court. They can remand it to the Commonwealth Court for further proceedings. There really is no way to predict what the Supreme Court may or may not do until they actually hear the case. Again, to try to guess what they'll do is simply that, is guesswork.
No, that's fair, but let's say
That's
Friday
all-
they come
that's
back,
all
they have
we
a
really know
decision,
right now.
masks are done statewide. What is Carleton, how is Carleton going to respond? So what is the criteria? Because eventually, I think Pennsylvanians are done with this. They have taken away power from Wolf. Beam is finding little loopholes to continue masking children. Commonwealth Court already said no. Hopefully Supreme Court comes back and says no. What is Carleton going to respond? If I know how Carleton's going to respond, again, my frustrations go away. I am just constantly hearing from people in power how we have to just constantly like punish these little kids. And that's what it feels like. And that's what some kids are actually experiencing. Apparently a kid was suspended. Not naming names, but I heard
Hopefully
a story.
the Supreme Court will give
and that's
definitive
disturbing.
directions to all of us, and that speculation will be done. I think that everybody shares that.
But shouldn't
that-
Carleton have a plan for once that, either way what
There
happens?
is no way to plan for what we don't know will happen. Until the Supreme Court makes a decision and we know definitively where they're going, there's really no way to take the factors and try to come up with a plan until we know what the rules of
I
the
don't think
game,
it's that
so to
hard, to
speak,
be
are.
honest. That's a shame.
Well,
This is,
I'm telling you, that's what we're
this is a
faced
shameful
with, and
answer,
that's
I
what we
think.
will
I
be
think,
doing.
it could be Friday. They can come back on Friday and say, we agree. What is Carleton going to do?
So what
So-
we've been tasked to do is we would fall back on our health and safety plan. It was passed back in, it was
And it was
passed in
going to be
July.
revised now that there's a vaccine for 5 to 12-year-olds. That's the language that's in there, and
Say
there's
it
been
again.
no...
Say it again, I didn't hear you.
It was, in the language in the health and safety plan says, once there's a vaccination for 5 to 12-year-olds, which there is, we will revisit this plan. And so I asked, are we going to revisit this? What's happening? I'm-
And so to further where I was going with the other part, as far as criteria specifically with masks, the health and safety plan does have specific criteria in place in regard to the transmission levels that are reported in Allegheny County by the CDC. And that is when those transmission levels are reported as either high or substantial, then we had universal masking K through 12. If they were low or moderate, then we had masks recommended for those who are not vaccinated at the high school. And then the revisitation as to the availability of the vaccine would also be taken into account as well. So I think the board is willing to take a look at, we're also required by the American Rescue Plan to go through and look at that policy every 6 years or every 6 months to take a look at that to determine if there are any changes. So we're required to do it every 6 months. I think we've been committed to taking a look at it in regard to the local elements. I think with the masking order being in the courts right now, to say that we've considered it, yes, but as far as taking action, I think that's what Mr. Andrews is looking at there as far as taking action. If we're really not sure where the order is going, there's not much sense on our end to make any modifications.
Is
at
the
this point.
transmission level, is this like statewide mandates on transmission level, or is this Carleton?
I'm sorry, the transmission level?
Yes, when you
is-
said it was high or versus low.
It's from Allegheny County, as reported by the CDC.
Not reported, but is that mandated? So is this Carleton's going off of
No,
those
it's not
numbers?
mandated.
What's that?
It's not mandated.
Okay.
No,
So
no.
why I reject that is because with this new variant, I mean, it's, I think by all health officials, this isn't going away ever. There will always be ups and downs. And I reject the idea that we are going to be masking for the foreseeable future, for years and years to come. It's already been too long. I've been done 3 steps ago. The Omicron variant, or however you say it, has not killed a single person. Seemingly, this is a less death, and this is good news. We should all be looking for good news instead of just constantly lighting our hair on fire and getting like paranoid. And so I think that needs to be revisited as well, because transmission levels will always ebb and flow. Now, this is a thing, it's something we have to live with, and I will not accept my children being in these masks for years and years to come. And so I think, I'm really disappointed that there's no plans to say, when we get here, at least then I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. But this is my frustration.
So I think what you asked was what that criteria was. I think I provided it. What I sense is you don't like it, which I understand. But I mean, as far as the criteria, that's what we have in place. That's our criteria for the masking issue. It's pretty firm. It's based in the transmission levels at this
And
time.
there's no revisiting until the 6-month period.
No, I didn't
Like,
say
there's
that
no
either.
plans to
I
get
said-
rid of masks.
No, I
Like,
didn't-
that's what's
I-
happening in the language. There's
I
no
didn't say that
plans,
either. So
because
we're-
there will always be a new variant. And so that's not acceptable to me.
Right. It's
But
always
I
gonna
have
be
my
a-
answer. All
Okay.
right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that has questions or comments for the board on any topic? Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. Ms. Smith?
I just wanted to say, I was really looking forward to not having to wear a mask here today too until everything got extended. If we're gonna keep this up, I would like to say, if we could get microphones in here or move the ladies forward, because they're the ones that we have the problem hearing. I didn't hear enough of what was said today. And this is happening over and over. I thought this was just gonna be a small thing and then we'd be able to hear again. But it's really hard to hear what's happening if we're gonna be stuck in these.
It's good feedback. Dennis, are we, sorry, right, could we get microphones for future meetings?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The public thanks you. Any other public comments or questions? Turn to the board. Any final comments or questions from the board? Before we adjourn, I'll plead with everyone, please go get a second or third round of food. There's plenty of food left. And thank you again to the Airmark team for providing such a great spread of food for everybody. Thank you very much. That's it. So,
Thank you again to Michelle.
oh yes, and thank you and congratulations to Michelle. Yes, yeah, definitely. And Rachel, we look forward to working with you. Board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.